Merry Christmas in July, everybody. Today's project for Christmas in July for scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations is going to be a little mason jar box slash gift card holder. So let me show you the product or the project, and then I will show you what materials you're going to need to make this. So I used the Bow Bunny collection, the Christmas collection from last year, so I'll be using a different collection for the tutorial, but this box is basically representing a mason jar on each end, and then it has a little strap, and then you can store things on the inside. And another thing about this box is that one end here where it's tied with this bow, you untie it and it opens up and you can put a gift card in there. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on. I will talk to you about the supplies, and there is going to be an option for those of you who don't have all of the supplies. Let me tie that back up. So one of the things that I'm going to use is a crimper, and if you don't have a crimper, that's totally fine. You can do like an accordion fold for this part when we get there if you want, or you don't even have to do any kind of crimping, but I will be using this to get the lid effect. For the mason jar, I'm going to be using the punch board, the envelope punch board. If you do not have an envelope punch board, I am going to be providing a template in the files in the Country Craft Creations scrapbookers page, where you can download it so that you have the right size and measurement. You would just have to trace it, okay? But I will be showing on the punch board how to make it, and then I'll refer to what you can do at that point if you don't have the punch board. Okay, so I'll be using those two tools. I have a bug in here. I am going to need 2 pieces of 12 by 12 for the base, so that's very minimal cardstock. I'm using the red from Country Craft Creations. And to decorate my box, I am going to be using the authentic jingle paper. Okay, so you'll need the other supplies like normal that you probably use. You're going to need a paper cutter, scissors, a scoring tool, glue or adhesive of your preference, and then little things to embellish, like I have some leaves and buttons and some twine. Okay, so go ahead and gather your materials, and the first thing we're going to do is cut our base paper for the box and for our mason jars, and I will tell you what size papers you're going to need for those. Now the measurements I give you are if you're using the envelope punch board. If you are not using the punch board, you're going to cut out the template, lay your template on your cardstock and trace it and then cut it. Okay, so let's get started with the cutting of the base. The box is going to be a 9.5 by 10 piece of paper. Okay, and I have a shadow and I apologize. I can't get rid of it. Let me see. Okay, oh darn it. 9.5 by 10. You are going to need one sheet that is 3.5 by 11. When I get closer it gets a little fuzzy, so let me see. Hopefully you can see that well enough. I'm gonna try and get a better picture here. There we go. Okay, a 3.5 by 11. That's going to be the jar end that has the gift card holder, so this is the one that opens. For the other end, the mason jar, you're going to need a 3.5 by 4 1/4 sheet of paper, and that's for the other end that does not open. For the strap on the basket or the handle, you're going to need 8.5 by 1 1/4. And then finally, for the base, the lid of the mason jar, you're going to need 6 at 3.5 by 1. Okay, and I used a silver sparkly paper. I think that they used to have this at the store, Country Craft Creations. I don't know if they still have this shimmery paper or not, but 3.5 by 11, you'll need 6 of them, and that's for the strap. Not the strap, the lid. Okay. All right, so go ahead and get your papers cut, and then we're going to start with the box portion. So I'm going to move this aside. And you are going to need your scoreboard, okay? And this box is going to be a real simple one to do. On each, you're going to be scoring on all 4 sides, so it doesn't matter which side you start with at the top. You are going to score at 3 inches. Let me double check that. Let's see. For the box, you are going to score at 3 inches. Yep, I was right. On all 4 sides. So 3 inches, score and turn. 3 inches, score and turn. 3 inches, turn, and 3 inches. Okay, that's all the scoring for the base of the box. Now you're going to need your scissors, or you can use your trimmer if that's easier for you. And we are going to be doing some cutting on the score lines, or right inside of the score line so you don't see the score, to form our box. And so I'm going to start with this square that's in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along the score line, right just a hair to the left of it, and go to that first score line. Okay, we're not cutting the square off, I'm just cutting this line up. So I'm going to go as straight as I can, just a hair to the right so that I don't see that indentation, and up to that score line. Okay, just like so. Now I'm going to take my paper and turn it, and I'm going to do the same thing. So we're always going to be cutting on the bottom right hand corner going up to the first score line. Okay, so we have that. Turn it to the right, bottom right hand square, cut along the score line up to the first score line. And we have one more, so I turn it one more time, cut along the score line, okay, and there you go. Now what I would like for you to do next is to get rid of some bulk. These little squares on all 4 corners, we're going to snip off probably about 3/4 of an inch, so that when we fold our box, it's going to lay nicer. And so I'm just going to, on the square, you can use your paper cutter if that is going to work better for you. So if you just want to put this in to make sure it's straight, just make sure you don't cut too far down. Move it, I'm going to, let's say 3/4 of an inch, and cut down. So I didn't go all the way, but at least it's going to be straight. Okay, so that you take a little bit of the bulk out. So I'm going to do that to all 4 corners, and I'm just going to use my scissors because that's going to be covered with decorative paper on the inside, so you won't even see. So it's okay if it's not perfectly straight. Okay, so about 3/4 of an inch. And 2 more sides. That one's really crooked. That's going to bother me even though you don't see it. But it's still crooked. And the last one. Okay. Now let's go ahead and burnish our score marks. And some people like to score ahead of time. Whatever works best for you. It's too late now though, right? We've already waited. All right, and I think I have one more to do. Yep, over here. Now, just to help you kind of get an idea of what we're going to be doing, we're going to be putting our box together by putting, let's see. So the box comes together by putting all of the shortened pieces on the inside. So it's going to kind of go around in a circle just like we cut it. And that goes on the inside. Okay, so that's going to form our box. So all the little tabs are on the inside. And we're going to end up gluing those down and putting decorative paper on top so that the sides are all one sheet and nice and smooth. It's going to be easiest to do as much matting ahead of time as possible. So we're going to be able to put our decorative paper on the inside bottom and the bottom if you want. This one's optional. You don't have to have it on the bottom. And then all of the outsides. We're going to wait to do the decorative paper on the inside until we glue our box, okay, and until we add our handle for 2 of the sides, okay. So I'm going to move this to the side and give you the measurements for the decorative paper. Now, first of all, let me show you what paper I chose. These little cups of cocoa, adorable. And I could put a hot cocoa mix inside of my box, see? And a lot of times you can make a hot cocoa mix and put it in a mason jar, so this is just perfect. So I use this for the box, and then the handle is going to be that, okay? All right, so measurements. Now, you're gonna need 4 pieces at 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. Now, the reason why I wrote the word across by this 3 7/8 is because if your paper's directional, you need to know that. So when I gave you that measurement, that's for this one. So it's 3 7/8 across, 2 7/8 going up and down. And you're going to need 4 of those for the inside and the outside. Okay. You are going to need 2 at 2 7/8 by 3 3/8. Okay. Now that's for the end pieces, but you only need it on the inside because the outside you have the mason jar glued on it. So you only need 2 for the inside. You're going to need 2 at 3 3/8 by 3 7/8. Now this time I wrote the word across by 3 3/8 because when I look at this basket, I look at it like this. And so it is 3 3/8 across and 3 7/8 long. So if your paper's directional, that might be helpful. Okay. And I said 2 because I'm going to do the bottom also. And then your strap or your handle, I keep saying strap, your handle, you need 1 inch by 8 1/2. Okay, and that's that. So freeze this if you need to. Now, if you like to use ink around your paper, now would be the time to do that. I have already pre-inked mine. Okay, so I took some distress ink and just went around all of the edges. Okay, so what we're going to start with are the bottom piece. So that is your 3 3/8 across and your 3 7/8 going up and down that way. And we're just going to glue that down. You can use whatever adhesive works best for you. I have something stuck to my glue bottle, a hair or something. Yuck. Okay. Huh. Now I clogged it. I gotta get my pin. I can't get the glue out. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. Oh. All right, and just lay that down in the center. And go ahead and burnish it. Where's my burnishing tool? There it is. If you have any excess, you might want your dry baby wipe to get that up. Okay, so that's the only thing we can do on the inside. So now I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to do the bottom center. So just like we did on the other side, only the bottom. Again, you don't have to do the bottom. I like that finished look. And I want to make sure it's going the same direction as the top. And go ahead and burnish that down. And get rid of your excess glue. All right, so we're going to keep our paper upside down like this. And now we're going to do the sides. Now when I say the sides, it's not the four corners, remember, we're not going to work with those. We're just working with these two middle sections on the side and these two middle sections. And this is directional, so I have to remember my box is going to be going up. So when I glue this, I want my pattern to face that way, and I want my pattern to face that way, if that makes sense. Okay, so that when I fold it up, the direction is correct. Okay, so these pieces were 2 7/8 by 3 7/8. So I'm going to glue those two sides down. And if your paper is not directional, you don't need to worry about it. Okay. I should have Christmas music going on in the background. Or I should be drinking hot chocolate. Actually, it's too hot to be drinking hot chocolate. That's not true. I drink coffee all the time, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Where's my other one? Right there. Okay, make sure you have the direction going correct. And lay that one down. Don't cross any score lines. Okay, and now I'm going to do these two pieces at the end, and now my direction of my pattern, I'm going to have one going facing up and one facing down, so that when they fold, they're in the right direction. Okay. Make sure you burnish it on there real good. And one last one that we can do now. Oh, I just screwed up. You know what? It'll be fine. We didn't need these on the outside. We needed them on the inside, but now we'll just have extra. I'll have to cut 2 more pieces. This is where the jar is going to go. So we really didn't need this piece. We just needed it on the inside. So now I got to cut 2 more, but that's all right. So then we're going to put all of the cut pieces on the inside. And we're going to glue all of those down. Okay, so all the flaps are on the inside. I'll have to go back and cut another one in just a second. So I'm going to put glue on one at a time on the little flaps that we cut shorter. If you want, you can have your clothespins ready. If you want to have your clothespins help keep it attached. So I'll get mine ready. Okay, now I'm going to do the next one, and I'll do the last 2 together, but I'm doing these one at a time. Again, those go to the inside. Make sure it's lined up so that your box is nice and neat. I'm going to go ahead and burnish, and I'll get a clothespin. And so now, to make it easier, I'm going to put glue on this one and this one at the same time so that I can just close off my box easier. Okay, so bring that up. Do some burnishing. And I'll get 2 more clothespins so that while I'm cutting the 2 that I need, that can be setting. All right, so if you're watching this after the fact, make sure that you hold off on putting these end pieces. You don't really need that. We should have put them on the inside, but if you're watching this live, you'll just have to cut 2 more. So they were 3 3/8 by 2 7/8. Okay, so now we're going to put the 2 pieces on our long sides. So the 3 3/8 by 3 7/8, we're going to put those 2 on. So I'm just going to glue those. These are the long ends. And just scoot it down in there. And eyeball it and then burnish. Okay. Now the other longer side, and the reason why we're doing the longer sides is we have to attach our handle before we do the short sides. I should have marked an X or something so I remembered not to put that paper. Okay. All right, so now we need our long strip of decorative paper, and we need our 1 1/4 by 8 1/2 inch base paper. And we're going to glue this on top of our handle and center it, and then that's going to go as our handle. I am going to take just a second to kind of round my paper a little bit. So I just kind of use my ruler like you're using curling ribbon. Okay, so that way it'll be easier to attach as our handle. So let me put some glue on this, and again I already inked my edges. Okay, not too much, just the right amount. And this will go from end to end on our base piece, so we just need to center the sides. Okay. Make sure that's adhered real well. And then we're going to glue those like so. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. Depends how long you want your handle. I'm just going to put my glue up about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to center this. So I want to look at it to make sure that I'm centering it. Okay, I am going to go back to those clothespins and grab a couple. Okay, and let's glue the other side. So there is our basket, and now we just need to finish putting our designer paper, decorative paper on the inside. So once these are down real good, we can go ahead and glue those in. And then our basket's done, and we just need to do the mason jars and the decorating. Okay, so I'm going to add my glue. Make sure if you have directional paper that it's going the right direction. Okay. And I'm going to actually use this to get inside. Just make sure it's pressed down real well. And let's do the other end. Lay it in there. Okay. And press down. All right, our box is complete. So now let's move on to our mason jars. Okay, I'm going to move that to the side. I'm going to go ahead and prepare the lids first because that's easy. So these are the 1-inch pieces. Put away my clothespins. Okay. Okay, so all I'm going to do is stick them in my crimper and crank. And I'm going to do that to all of them. So I just stick it in there. Oopsie. Try and make it even. And it comes out crinkled. So I'm going to do that to all 6. I have this tool and I don't use it very often, and this was perfect for it. Three down, 3 to go. I am going to round the corner. Oh, ouch. I am going to round the corner of these so they look more like a jar. Right now they're squared off. Okay. So what I like to do, I'm just going to use my little corner rounder. The bottom I'm going to keep squared off. I'm just going to round off the top corners so that that will be our jar lid. Okay, so let's do that to all 6. All right, almost there. I think this would be a cute gift for just about anybody because you can put any kind of gift card in there. You can put any kind of stuff in the center. I mean, you can adapt it to anybody, anything. Okay, so our lids are ready to go. So this next part is for people who have the envelope punch board. If you do not have an envelope punch board, you're going to be cutting out your template, download it and print it, cut out the jars, lay it on top of your decorative paper, trace it, cut it out. Okay. The rest of us, let's go ahead and get started with our punch board. We're ready to start our jars, and before I give you the information about that, I do want you to know that obviously these mason jars are not my original idea using the punch board. So rather than reinvent the wheel, I did look at some tutorials myself, and I just used theirs to create my idea of the box. So I don't want to take credit for these mason jars. We're going to take our long piece that was 3.5 by 11, place it in your scoreboard with the 11 inches going across the top, and you're going to score at 4 inches, 5.5 inches, and 7 inches. So I wrote that down, but it's so small I don't know if you can see it. 4 inches, 5.5 inches, and 7 inches. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to burnish those score lines. So the first score line, make sure that everything's lined up, because sometimes when you fold it, it gets a little off. We want to make sure everything is lined up on both sides. Okay, and then turn it around and do the first score line on the other side the same way. When you bend it, make sure it's lining up on the sides. Okay, so these are going to become our 2 mason jars. So the middle score line, we're actually going to fold the opposite direction. So I'm going to fold back on that one. So we're going to end up having a little mountain. Okay, and again, I want to make sure it lines up. Okay, like so. So this is where we're going to start our punching. I'm going to straighten out my paper. Again, these I'm using information from a different person on this one. This isn't my original thought, but to get your lid indentation, she used the O and the N. So the O in score and the N in line. Let me zoom in a little bit, that might help. Let me, oh, that's not what I want to do. Hold on, sorry. Zoom. Now it's fuzzy. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, so right here there's the word score line, and I'm going to line my paper up so that it butts up against the O in score and the N in line, and that's a good spot for it. And I'm going to punch. I'm going to flip my paper upside down. I'm going to line up this edge of the paper so it butts up against the O in score and the N in line. And punch. I'm going to do the same thing to the other end, so I'm going to flip it over, line it up by butting up my paper with the O and the N, flip it over, line it up with the O and the N. Okay, so there's the top part of our jars. Now we want to round the corners of our jars, so I'm going to bend this first one down, and I'm going to use the back here. So this is folded over, and we're going to stick that corner in and punch, and do that to the other edge also. So there's actually 2 layers of paper in there. We're going to do the same thing to the other jar. Fold it over where that first score line was, stick it in your corner rounder. Okay. And now we need to make the slot for the gift card holder. So let's go ahead and fold it on that center score line. Let's place it in our scoreboard so that the edge of the paper is up against the edge of our blue punching mechanism. So right up against the very edge of the blue. Close to 1 inch, but not quite. Punch. Turn it over. Line up our paper at the very edge of this blue punching mechanism. Not quite at the 1 inch. And punch. Okay, now we're going to trim the piece off in the middle between those two slots we just made. Like so. And that's our opening for our gift card. Okay. So now I want to glue. So if you look at it, it looks like an M. I want to glue these two pieces and these two pieces so that they're stuck together. Okay. So just put a little glue on the edge. And on the edge. Pinch them together. Like so. And then when you put your gift card in, it doesn't go the regular way, you stand it up. Okay. So let's do one more for the other end. This is the single mason jar. Oh, what am I doing? This one. Okay, so let's place, this is the 3.5 inch side that is the top. So we're going to move that to the side. So the 4 1/4 edge is across the top of your punch board. 4 1/4 is going across. This is where I butted it up against the O and the N and punch. Turn it upside down, line it up with the O and the N. When I say line it up, and I'm butting it up so I can see the O and the N. Let's turn it around and round our corners. Okay. So now we need to add our paper to our jars, and then we'll attach them to our box. Okay, so the measurements for our decorative paper, let's see, decorative paper, 3 3/8 wide by 3 1/8 tall. Let me write that down so you can see it. 3 3/8 by 3 1/8. Where'd my paper go? I just saw it and now I don't. I'll just write it on this. Paper, decorative paper. We need 4 of them. So 3 3/8 by 3 1/8. And this is how tall it is, the 3 1/8. Okay. And we're going to need 4 of those. 3 3/8 by 3 1/8. And if you want to ink the edges, go ahead and ink the edges. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut out our paper and adhere it, and I'll be right back. I have my 4 pieces cut out. I am going to round the corners so that they are rounded at the bottom like we did our jars. So let's do the bottom 2 corners of all of them. So that will fit on there just like so. And we don't need to do anything with the top because we're going to have our lid and decorations in the middle. Okay. So let's finish our punching of the corners. All right. I do want to ink my edges, so I'll do that real quick. When I say quick, I mean quick. Let's just make sure that it looks, you can see, just see a little bit. You don't have to go crazy, and it's to get rid of that little white edge. Adds a little vintagey feel. One more. Now we don't have to cover the back of our mason jars because it's going to be glued onto the box. Okay, so let's do our single first. So here's our single. Let's go ahead and adhere that, and wherever we adhere it, that is our front, okay? Because the back we attach to the box. So just put some adhesive on there, some glue. Okay. Make sure you get rid of that excess glue. Let me go ahead and, is that zoomed in enough so you can see? Ooh. Okay. So now I am going to need 2 of our lids. Okay. We're going to glue one on the front and one on the back. Now, I am going to trim these edges so that the red doesn't stick out. Because if you just put it on like this, sometimes a little piece will stick out and we don't want that. So I'm just going to trim, just snip and snip and make sure that that's covered. And it is. Okay, now you'll notice I have a little bit of space here, and that is so that I can add some, I'll be adding some twine or some sort of ribbon or something there, so that will be covered up. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive on the bottom. And center it. And then glue the other one on the back. And I'm going to put glue on all of this one because it's going to bump up against the front one we just did. Make sure you line it up. Okay. And there is our jar. Now, let me give you an idea if I have something over here. You can decorate it with some sort, oh, that's too thick. I'll probably get seam binding. Yeah, I'll get seam binding in a second. So what we're going to end up doing, this one's done except for our decoration. And then that's going to be glued to this end of the box. But we don't want to glue it. It's easier to put your decoration and your twine and all that kind of stuff there first. Okay, so this one's done. Now remember, on this one we do not have to do the back, so the pieces that are left are for the front and the 2 on the inside. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue those down. And this one I'm going to have to trim. I can see that. I'm just going to snip the ends. Okay. I had to angle my ends because it would have overlapped the red. Turn it around, do this on. I'm going to have to snip my corners on this one too. Actually, I should be. Let's glue that one down. Okay. So by snipping, it doesn't, you can still see the red now. So there's the inside. And now we're going to do the front. And lay it down, and I'm going to have to snip the corners. And I'm not picky. You can measure if you want, or take the little triangle that you cut off and lay it on the other side. I don't roll that way on these things. There, and it works okay. press down. All right, now it's time for the lids. So I'm going to put 2 here and 2 here because you can see the lid from the back. So I like a finished look. So I'm going to go ahead and snip a little corner off of each end here so that you don't see the red. Snip a little end, snip a little end. Okay, so I snipped these little ends off. We're going to place a lid on the back. So I'm just going to do a little bit in the center. Line it up to where you want it. Oh, get up there. Okay. Turn it over, glue another one on top of it. Like so. Okay, now when we glue the next ones on, we want to make sure they line up with the back lids. So I'm going to make sure I use the back to help measure to place this in the right spot. I can tell I need to snip just a hair of this red off. Okay, so let's adhere the front lid. So I'm going to close this so I can see that it lines up with the back lid. There we go. Open it and put the other one behind. And it looks good. Now, when you put your seam binding on, you're going to want to wrap it to the back so that it keeps this closed. So you don't just wrap the seam binding along the first layer. You have to have this closed and wrap it around both of them. So I am going to decorate and then glue these on. You can use your wet glue or you can use score tape to adhere these. Either one will work. Okay? So I'll come back and show you what mine looks like decorated. Here is the final mason jar box, gift card box. I used a punch out from the collection. It says Christmas is swell. Remember, this is my gift card side, and so I wrapped the twine all the way around both layers, and I just put an embellishment on there that had some poinsettias and leaves and some snowflakes, and there's a little bit of burlap back there. Okay, and then on the other end I wrapped the twine, and I used a punch out from the collection. This would have been cute for a bow back there, but so anyway, I hope that that was easy to follow. And again, if you don't have the envelope punch board, you will need the template that's in the file section on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. Thanks, and happy Christmas in July, everybody.